Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so did my therapy session with Lydia. It went pretty good. Also set myself up with a caseworker in regards to finding what type of programs may be available. Since I haven't talked to a caseworker in over 9 months, they may be something new, so we set that up. And the therapy session went pretty well. You know, essentially we were kind of recapping some of the same stuff that we had talked about in regards to, you know, things are different now, I have better coping mechanisms and things like that, so it shouldn't be difficult to insert myself into things that I would otherwise not want to put myself in a position to kind of see myself be more successful in coping with the bad days at a job or bad days at school or whatever the case would be. You know, because I have better coping mechanisms, because I'm more established in some key areas that make it so that it's easier to cope. So that's what she was trying to convince me of. And as I told her, I'm like, look, man, this is not about rationalizing. If it were, I wouldn't be here in the first place. It's about overcoming the choice to give the finger to something. You're working against a willfulness that doesn't rationalize when considering what it is they don't want to do. And so I don't think she really knows what to do with that. We've been saying that off and on throughout the course of my time being here, but yeah, I listened, but I just think that this just sounds like the same stuff my mother used to tell me when she's trying to convince me to go to school. You know, it's like, I heard all these conversations 1,000,006 times. They ain't got nothing to do with overcoming that for which doesn't choose. It's not rational. You know what I mean? It's not a rational thing that you're dealing with. So I don't know. I just kicking the ball forward. I got another appointment with her on what? I think it's July, the first week of July. I think it's the 9th. I'm not sure though. But I got it on my schedule, so we'll be ready for it on that day. And then the 27th with the caseworker at the end of this month. So, you know, we just continue on that path, man. So I figured out. But yeah, man, ain't really too much else to it than that. If anything, I'm just finding myself out here in the sunshine, getting more exercise, which is really good for me. I was looking at my physique today. I lost a lot of weight. It looks as if I've lost a lot of weight over the last, say, 2 months. And so I'm really happy about that overall process. What else? Not really much else, man. I haven't really got a chance to look at anything. I know I was thinking the basketball game was tomorrow. I was hoping they didn't play tonight because I didn't really feel like dedicating 3 hours to NBA ball tonight. But unfortunately, they do play, so I'll probably have the game on at some point. Some days you just don't really want anything to be kind of getting in the way of what it is you want to do, regardless if it's something that you would otherwise be interested in or not. Some nights you just don't really want to have to dedicate 3 hours to any damn thing outside of whatever it is that you want to do. So it's like, tonight's one of them nights. I was like, man, I don't particularly want to do that. I want to sort through some of this music that came out last night, try to see if there's a playlist out there, or meditate like I did last night. You know, so the NBA is a real inconvenience to me tonight. I may not watch the game just off the strength that I really did not want to watch the game tonight. But that's what it is when it ain't your team. You know, when it's my team, I'll be happy to watch it, even under these circumstances. But the fact that we're not involved, it's like, damn, these fools really play tonight, and we just played like 2 nights ago. But that's how the NBA's been, condensing these schedules, giving you 1 day off, and then you gotta get right back to it. So I don't know. I ain't a fan of the schedule. They need a little more time in between these finals games. But yeah, man, just it was a strange day for just everything. Coming into the office today in a chain, people acting weird to me. I had a guy I had my leg kicked up on the seat. He acted like he didn't even see the leg. Turned out he was not well mentally. He couldn't stop moving. And when he finally did finish digging through his bags and all these different things, he pulled out a sandwich and then started talking to himself while he was eating the sandwich. I'm like, yeah, this is a nut right here. And so that kind of energy I didn't feel too comfortable with him sitting in front of me. As is, I kind of wanted to kick him out of the damn seat, but it wasn't right for me to do that, obviously. But that was the vibes. I didn't feel like my best. And then when I got to the office, Lydia's office, There was a lady who came in there. I'd seen her a couple of times, but she had come in there asking. She came in and said, Brandon, Brandon, Brandon. I'm like, it's a million Brandons. Who was the last name? So I didn't quite react right away because I wasn't there to see anybody other than Lydia. So I thought maybe it was somebody else named Brandon. Brandon is such a common name that, as I've had it for the last 41 years, I've learned you don't always answer to your name, because there's a damn good chance that if there's a million people in the room, more than one of them names Brandon. It's just what it is. So when she said my name, I was like, I was waiting for her to say the last name. She looked around, said Brandon, 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 and I'm waiting for her to finish the last name, and she disappears into the back. I get up like, okay, well, was she talking about me or what? Because I didn't see nobody else answer. And then she came back around to the front of the glass where the receptionist was. She said, "You're Brandon?" I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "I was calling your name." I was like, "Well, I ain't here to see you. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why. What am I supposed to be doing?" But I guess she wanted me to sign some paperwork, update my information and all of that. So that right there was a little strange exchange, because they're used to dealing with people who are severely ill, and she did not make it clear who she was there to address other than the first name. So it's like, I didn't know if you were talking about another Brandon, and she was kind of looking at me like I was crazy. I'm like, yo, this is weird. So I filled out her paperwork and then went back into the lobby area and waited for Lydia. My therapy session went great with Lydia, no problem. I left there, and then when I got back to the train station, it was more weird energy. So I'm just like, yo, man, this ain't my day for all this social stuff. This is just not one of the days. I'm not feeling my best. Seems like the world around me ain't doing its best. Let me just get the hell away from people. That's really what it is for me. Some days I just don't want to be around human beings, because I'm very receptive to people's energy, and I do carry things. Like, one person treat me weird, now I got that on my spirit toward the next person, and if the next person appears to be treating me weird, now I got that on me the whole day. It's just like, I gotta overcome that. And so it was that kind of day for me. It's a little awkward, a little weird. I wasn't feeling it, but you know, I did what I was supposed to do. I made sure that I was there on time. Luckily enough, I got there on time. And so that was it, man. You know, but the therapy session was good. But as is, the therapy itself challenges you, you know. They dig into different parts of your brain that are not, you know, really comfortable to go into. So that left me feeling a little awkward just in general, as usual. It just ain't my day for social stuff. So looking forward to going back in the room, try to challenge myself to do my exercise routine. Since I didn't do it yesterday, I decided to get rest. I don't feel as lethargic today. I think the rest really helps, so I should be willing to do my 100 screw workout and get ready for this basketball game if I decide to keep it on, if it's any good. If it ain't good, I'll be happy about that. If it's a blowout, I'm like, cool, I ain't gotta watch this, and I can focus on the things that I really desire to, mainly music and meditation tonight. That's really what I had in mind. But yeah, man, just a little off-centered. I don't know if it has anything to do with other stuff, like what's going on in the world. I doubt it. I don't believe it does. But paying attention to genocide and all the stuff that's going on with Israel can always affect the mental health one way or another if you're focused on it. Dystopian American government behavior is also something that can eat away at one's patience if you're paying attention to it as much as I have been. But you know, I think I got a lot of that out of my system on the way too. As I was making the video earlier, I encourage you guys to check out, and we'll leave it at that. But yeah, man, I just also, you know, I was talking to Lydia about not making my doctor's appointment, and you know, that's something I probably should have done earlier in the week, but I just wasn't up for it. And I didn't reschedule it, which is also something I need to do. So, you know, that was on my mind as well. But you know, I'm thankful that I have therapy to go to on days like this, when there's work to be done on one's mind and challenges to overcome or what have you. You want to have an outlet to communicate and some feedback on your behavior and your feedback on how you come off or sound. And so I think this has been very helpful for me. she mentioned something called a 5-second rule. And the only 5-second rule I ever heard of is when something drops on the ground, you got 5 seconds to pick it up, that kind of thing. But no, she was referring to the idea that you don't give yourself enough time to think your way through something that you're trying to mull over as it pertains to getting up and moving. She used the example of working out. And she don't feel like going to work, or she don't feel like going to the gym. Instead of sitting in her bed mulling over it for an extended period of time, she gives herself 5 seconds, and then she moves before thinking. Just move. And I like to get the concept of that. I think that's a very good concept. So I try to incorporate that into times where I'm mulling over things that I know damn well I need to hurry up and do. It ain't gonna get no easier the more you sit there and mull over it. You give yourself 5 seconds and then pick up your body and move in one direction or another. That way you don't spend too much of your mental capacity mulling over things that need to be done any damn way. So that's a good little exercise right there that I might want to incorporate into my situation. But yeah, man, that's really what it is. It's dealing and coping and focusing and trying to manage everything I got going on. You know, it's not easy, but it is doable. And so that's what we do. We just continue to move. Don't think too much. So I'm going to tell everybody, it's easy to overthink, especially if you have a sharp mind. It's very easy to overthink. But don't mull too much, because that wastes a lot of the energy that you would reserve for the task itself. And so that's what she gave me. That's what I shared with y'all. But you know, what else, man? I don't know. Just something that was talked about this morning I thought would be pretty interesting. You know, this ain't got nothing to do with nothing too serious. Most of the time when we mull over things, it's a serious point or something that really make you think. I don't think this is that serious, to be honest with you, but it is something that was talked about on Joe Budden podcast, and I thought that it kind of opened up the door for a different type of conversation than what we usually have on this channel. And Ciara, you know Ciara, the singer, one that's married to Russell Wilson. They have a couple children. She got on BET, I guess BET Awards was yesterday or something. I don't keep up with TV anymore at all, so far be it for me to know this, if not for them talking about it. But she got on TV and she was talking to Jim Jones. Not Jim Jones, the one that had all them people killed. No, he's definitely long gone. Jim Jones from back in the day, I told y'all my grandmother had to do with his church and was a part of that, and they lost a lot of friends there, and luckily enough my grandma didn't go and drink the Kool-Aid and all of that, but she was set to go on that trip and would have died there with all them people. Not that Jim Jones, the guy from the Diplomats, a rapper from New York. That Jim Jones, he took this man's name. I guess he thought he was cool or something. I don't know why he took that man's name, or if he didn't take the man's name, maybe his name is just Jim Jones. I never knew, but yeah, this is the Jim Jones. I guess he was on stage on the red carpet yesterday for this award show, and Ciara walked up to him kind of off the record and suggested to him that he marry his longtime girlfriend. And you know, the podcast crew was conversing over that, and they pretty much unanimously agreed that Ciara was over the line and kind of disrespectful in a way, because she don't know what those folks got going on in their life. Maybe that's a point of contention in their relationship. Maybe it's something they've needed even therapy to kind of work their way through while they haven't gotten married after seemingly over 20 years of being together or whatever. People have their own arrangements, you know. But Ciara said that she was following the spirit. Following her spirit, or following what her spirit was telling her. I don't know how she worded it. And oftentimes we get on this channel, we talk about how we follow the spirit. Sometimes I do things based on that type of spontaneity and all of that. But I think the most important thing to remember is when you're following the spirit, to know that the enemy can use your voice, that same voice in your head, to suggest to you things that are going to be disruptive in nature. And to make sure that you filter everything that comes your way. Filter all your thoughts through the Holy Spirit, as we talked about the concept of that many times. And to just kind of get a feel for what is appropriate and what is not, based on putting yourself in other people's shoes in the scenario that you create with your behavior prior to actually executing that behavior, it's a big part of the thought process, is to say, is this what they need? And if they need this, do they need it from my voice? Is this something that I need to be sharing with them? Or would it be best coming from a different vehicle? You know, is this their best bit of advice? And if so, does it need to come from me? And that's, I think, you know, Ciara's a fairly young lady. I think I'm a little older than her. She's probably, what, 37, 36 years old, have a happy marriage. Her idea of what marriage is likely wrapped up in her belief. You know, she picked a good man, so she followed the spirit that told her to do that, and she feels like they're in a situation where they should probably be getting married too, but it's not the same thing in their life. Marriage to them may mean something different, and they've had some contentious, if that's the right word, some static, I guess is the word, in their relationship. Some of it has been public in regards to Jim Jones and his lady. So it's like, is it best for them to get married? I don't know. But Ciara was essentially saying it's time to. The spirit was telling her to tell them this. I'm like, well, that could be very, very helpful, but to do it on camera puts a lot of pressure on their household, a lot of pressure on Jim to do that. When you do it in front of a national audience, it really puts pressure, maybe some unwanted or some negative pressure in their lives. And you could keep them from, you know what I mean? It could have so many different effects that ain't got nothing to do with what it is you hope. And so I always encourage people to follow that voice inside of them, but not as it pertains to confronting people with business that is their own, based on concepts that work for you that may not work for everybody. I don't think that that's necessarily what the Spirit's going to drive you to do. Now, it may. And it may be intentional on creating the environment that comes from the static. And that's a whole different type of spiritual insertion. For all I know, the Holy Spirit did tell her to do that. And it wanted it to create the conversations we're having and that they're having on JBP. You know what I mean? It's a lot of different things that work. God does work in mysterious ways. So for all I know, that's exactly what God wanted. But we got to be careful not to offend people or push people away or pretend like we're more familiar with people's circumstance than maybe we are. You may know these people, but do you know them well enough to do that? And if you do you think that pressing that button on national television is the right way to present that information? It's just a lot of stuff that in that situation, one has to wonder if Ciara may have created more of a problem in their life than maybe what her intentions would have provided. You know, sometimes the best intentions have the worst consequences. And that's why it's so important to just, while following your heart, making sure that you're also vetting that the voice that you're receiving is coming from the Holy Spirit. And that's a very difficult one. Because if we follow every thought thinking God's in our heart at all times, we underestimate the intention of the enemy that's always trying to weasel his way into our hearts at the same time. You could have the Holy Spirit in your mind at 2 a.m. when you're meditating for an hour, but after you got out of the car listening to all types of music or listening to all different types of podcasts, and you hear a thought and say, yo, this is what you need to do. And hey, yeah, Holy Spirit, that wasn't Holy Spirit. You ain't been subjecting yourself to positivity for the last hour and a half. You've been subjecting yourself to worldly conversations, and they inspired that thought. Filter them through. So that's what comes to mind. I'm not saying either it's the case with Ciara, I wouldn't know, but when you start suggesting to people they get married, some people you can suggest to get married, they have a lot of fun, they're happy. Other people you can suggest to get married and they create a real problem in their life. When we consider how many people have different thoughts about what marriage is about, how many different relationships have gone south after getting married, some people really shouldn't be getting married. And so this might always be a solution. It doesn't always mean the same thing for each couple. A lot of people have different circumstances that don't have nothing to do with love, that can get compromised when they decide to get married. And they'd be just as happy not getting married. And the point is to stay together, I think. And if it's important to both parties to get married, then they'll make that decision as a family. But if they can find a way to stay together for 20 years without getting married, then maybe that's what they need to do to stay together. Many marriages that don't last that long, you know what I'm saying? And You know, that's just what it is. Some people don't really want to get married. Some people really, one side does, the other doesn't, and they war with that. And you bring it to the table, just brings up something that maybe they figured out or thought they had figured out. You know, put it on national television, now it brings in a different type of dynamic into the play, to where as long as they're doing this between themselves, it's cool. But once the pressure comes in, now it becomes more of a pressure for one side to feel like they're getting out of it what everyone else expects they should be getting out of it, rather than what it is that they agreed to in order for them to be happy together. So it's just a lot. It's a lot. And because I'm somebody that always tells people to follow the Spirit, I would also tell you to understand that when we insert certain things into the equation that have to do with other people's business, we can sometimes create scenarios that are not best for those folks. So if you're going to follow the Spirit, make sure it's actually the Spirit, and then from there ask the Lord for the best possible delivery, the best possible timing, and you know, give it as much meditation as required to be certain. And within your certainty, be ready for the backlash that comes with being mistaken, because that also is a big part of it. And so yeah, man, a lot of people think Jesus lives in their head, and it's hard telling them not that he doesn't. You know, I had a conversation with somebody a long time ago that didn't believe I had a relationship with God. You know what I mean? And I had a strong relationship with God at the time. God was getting me through a lot of difficulties, but they was hell-bent, even though they didn't know me that well, they were hell-bent on telling me I needed to establish a relationship with God in a way that I guess they felt it wasn't there. It could have gotten stronger, clearly. It has gotten stronger since. But I think the person I was having this conversation with was certain that she knew who I was in that regard. And she didn't. She didn't know me that well in that way. And maybe in her mind, if you don't have a church home, you didn't have a relationship with God. You know, but my relationship with God did not require I have a church home. You know, not at that time anyway. In order for me to be aligned with the Holy Spirit, it wasn't necessary that I go to church every Sunday. But if you're raised to believe that the only way you have a relationship with God is if you go to church every Sunday, and you see somebody who doesn't, you're going to write them off as somebody who doesn't have one. And it's the same thing with marriage. If you're one of those people who have a religious ideology about the spirit of marriage, and you see people, a couple that is not getting married, then you're going to apply your ideology about what marriage is supposed to be to their life, when it ain't going to equate to that in their life, nor do they share those ideologies that you do or have. So that's a big part of this as well. And the sacred union of marriage and religion tends to be something that a lot of people think is a universal thing in the lives of those that don't share that religious practice or that religious understanding. I think that people follow, as we talk about in different conversations, people tend to follow what has been given to them and passed down to them, and they just don't question it. And it's like, yo, this is what is good because God said it's good, which in a lot of cases may be very good for some people, but you got to take into account those it's not good for. You got to take into account the idea that maybe your ideology isn't applicable to their belief system, you know, and that if you want to respect them as friends, the best way to respect them is to not assume that they're lacking in some type of blessing because they don't identify being married as some spiritual connection to something greater than themselves or what have you. So it's just, you know, this is what ends up going wrong for a lot of people who follow religion without actually having a relationship with God. They tend to apply these uniform circumstances to others without actually respecting those others, and what it ends up doing is driving a wedge between them and those people, rather than bringing them together and providing the blessing that they ultimately want to be. And so that's what I end up finding out in a lot of situations. It's like, that's what your religion tells you, that you need to be married in order for you to have a happy home. What their experiences tell them, based on their time being together, is that they can stay together because they don't have certain things coming into play that only come into play when you're married. Financial circumstance and things like that that would otherwise drive a wedge between those two. So it's like, are we sure that it's the Lord that's bringing us to say these things, or are we not being driven by the enemy to kind of create some confusion in the lives of the people that we're hoping to affect with positivity? And so that's what I would say to Sierra. But one thing's for certain, she did bring about some conversations, and I can see where the Holy Spirit might have driven her to create that so that we can learn from it, if nothing else. So that's pretty much my point of view on that, man. I think I got everything out I wanted to say. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.